had a chance to talk about this Bob Woodward interview. So he did this 60 Minutes. Listen, Bob Woodward's been around for a long time. If you want to think that he did this hit piece on Donald Trump in this book, contrary, he's also did the same thing with Barack Obama, Bill Clinton. We all know what happened in the Richard Nixon days. He is a well-respected journalist and one of the most probably well-known journalists in the world. So he's the one who did these recordings with Donald Trump. And for the first time since releasing some of those recordings, he spoke to CBS 60 Minutes. This is Bob Woodward talking about the first time advisors told Trump about the threat of the coronavirus. Have a listen to this.
On January 28th of this year, before the virus was on anyone's radar, the National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien told the president, this virus will be the biggest national security threat you face in your presidency.
What was the president's reaction?
His head popped up and he asked questions.
And I think that's appropriate. You should ask questions. That's what a president should do when they don't know what's going on. He asked questions. Sounds good so far, right? So Woodward said a national security advisor in January told Trump corona would be like the 1918 Spanish flu. Have a listen to this.
Pottinger said his contacts in China told him this is going to be like the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic that killed 675,000 people in this country. It was a stunning moment in the Trump presidency, and I think in American history, because he then went on to publicly dismiss the virus, and he knew that this was a pandemic coming.
And this is January 28th.
Yes.
This is in January, where he has some of his advisors telling him that this is going to be like the 1918 Spanish flu. Woodward now reacted to Trump saying he wanted to play down the virus. This is Woodward, the moment where Trump said that. Have a listen to this.
I think he did not understand the American public. And he said, well, I don't want to create a panic. We know from history, when the public is told the truth, they organize, we have a problem, we're going to step up. And Trump thought, oh, well, they'll panic when there's a crisis, when the president particularly knows something, it's time to tell the public in some form. He failed.
So Trump on tape last month saying nothing more could have been done about coronavirus response. This is Woodward's reaction to that.
Nothing more could have been done. Nothing more could have been done.
Nothing more could have been done. Does he remember what he told me back in February about it's more deadly than the flu? I mean, it almost took my breath away that there was such certainty when he was absolutely wrong about the issue that defines the position of this country right now.
It's a good point. Good point that he brings up. We now know even earlier than February 7th in late January, it was being compared to the Spanish flu of 1918. Now, Woodward also talked a little bit about the letters between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un. By the way, a few days ago, Donald Trump tweeted out an update that Kim Jong-un is doing fine, and he actually complimented Kim Jong-un.
What did he say about Kim Jong-un?
Gave him a compliment. He made a...
He said never count him out, I believe.
Right.
Is what
that's exactly what he said. And that's, praising an evil, murderous dictator.
They were saying that he was dead. Mm-hmm. I thought he was dead, too, multiple times.
Yep.
And I would not be angry if Kim Jong-un died. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be. I'll be honest.
Well, considering the fact that he's killed thousands and thousands of his own people and he's tortured people.
The pleasure squad alone, where he's got 1,500 women and all they do is service him and his military leaders sexually, and they're all virgins when they become part of the
This is the guy
that for me is enough.
And we remember Otto Warmbier, I think, is enough for me. But remember, Donald Trump took the word of Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un had nothing to do with it. Otto, just a very healthy kid, young in his 20s. Yeah, I guess he just decided to become brain dead. Nothing to do with the dictatorship there. But anyway, Woodward talked a little bit about those letters, those love letters between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un. Have a listen to this.
Kim says to Trump, our meetings are relationship is out of a fantasy film. He says there is a magical force between us. Even now, I cannot forget that moment of history when I firmly held Your Excellency's hand as the whole world watched.
Did the CIA have a look at Kim's letters?
Yes.
And what did they make of them?
They never figured out who was writing them, but the analysts concluded that they're masterpieces because they are appealing to Trump's sense of grandiosity.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. The love relationship between Kim. Apparently, Kim Jong-un also has the hots for Sarah Huckabee Sanders, too. I mean, who doesn't? And then Woodward. To me, this entire interview with Bob Woodward, this is one of the most poignant points. Remember how Donald Trump has been playing down racism in this country and has never really admitted that systemic racism even exists? He said that in some interviews. On Axios, he said he does not believe, quote, systemic racism exists. Well, Bob Woodward asked Donald Trump about systemic racism. He got a little different answer. Have a listen to this.
Do you think there is systematic or institutional racism in this country?
Well, I think there is everywhere. I think probably less here than most places, or less here than many places.
Okay, but is it here in a way that it has an impact on people's lives?
I think it is, and it's unfortunate, but I think it is.
So there you have Donald Trump on record. And I don't know whether that was February or March, but this was obviously later on after the George Floyd situation. You have him on the record saying that, yes, he does believe systemic racism exists. Yes, it is here. He just said it. In many interviews after that, including the interview he did on Axios, he was asked that same question, and he said no, he does not believe systemic racism exists. By the way, the Attorney General Barr also said that while he does believe that there's racism out there, he doesn't believe it's systemic. You have Donald Trump on record saying that he believes it exists. But then he does these interviews later on, and he says it doesn't exist. Which one is it, Mr. President? Woodward also asked Trump if he feels a sense of white privilege. Have a listen to this. We having issues? Uh-oh. Our computer has frozen here at Beasley Broadcasting.
Oh, no more anti-Trump audio. All right. It stinks.
What do you mean anti-Trump
audio? I wish
audio?
I could hear more anti-Trump audio, Brian.
Okay. Well, what do you mean anti-Trump audio? This is a huge story.
No, do we have this? Brian, Sean, are we good?
What do you mean anti-Trump audio? All right. Sean's going to restart it. What do you mean anti-Trump audio? Fox News is talking about this audio.
Brian,
Every national publication is.
I was just making a joke, Brian.
Okay. Well, I wasn't laughing. No. I didn't think it was funny. You have a book that's coming out for probably...
I can't... It's okay for you to not think things are funny, but I don't think that Kimberly Guilfoyle screaming for 15 seconds is funny and a challenge being created
So explain to me...
Suddenly that's an issue?
We're breaking down the president's own words.
Right.
We're not making anything up. These are the president's own words on record. Please explain to me how I'm going out of my way to be anti-Trump. We are playing the actual audio that Donald Trump used, his own words. We're talking just in the last audio soundbite about systemic racism. Donald Trump saying in his own words that systemic racism exists. And I'm explaining to our listeners that a couple months later he did a bunch of interviews, one on Axios, where he said that systemic racism does not exist. Explain to me how that's anti-Trump. I'm just giving you his own quotes. I'm not making anything up, am I?
Well, I definitely disagree with that. I think that there is definitely individual racism, and there is systemic racism in places like small-town Georgia, small-town Arkansas.
So
but there is not widespread and or rampant systemic racism. And I think that Donald Trump didn't understand the question the first time, and he did the second time.
Okay, so I'm not...
That's my response.
I understand that's your opinion when it comes to systemic racism. We're talking about the president. The president said in this interview that he does believe that systemic racism is there. It exists. And then a couple months later, systemic racism didn't disappear. He was asked in several interviews, by the way, one of them on Axios, does systemic racism exist, Mr. President?
I don't think
he said no.
I don't think you heard the word systemic in the first interview with Woodward.
So now you're saying that he didn't hear the question properly?
Yeah, or he misunderstood the question.
Could it just be possible that maybe the president is lying?
Why would he lie about that? He's not lying, Brian.
Because
the data doesn't
you're
support
saying you
it.
didn't hear the question?
The data doesn't support it. He can't lie about that.
So you're saying
It's his opinion.
even though he said that, yes, he does believe that systemic racism is there, and he was asked twice, you're saying that he just misspoke, that he didn't hear the question
Yeah.
properly?
That's what I think happened, yeah.
Okay. All right. That's
Okay,
a heck of
that's
a
fine. Brian,
that's a heck of a defense,
again,
but okay.
the data does not support that there is widespread or rampant systemic racism within the police department as it relates to, African Americans or one specific race in general. If it's any race, it's Hispanic Americans.
Hey, Sean, can you do me a favor?
According to the data.
JD doesn't think that the president heard the question properly. Can we play that clip again? This is Bob Woodward asking Donald Trump about systemic racism. Have a listen to this again if we can. We having issues. I think we're having issues again with the audio. All right, go ahead, Sean.
Do you think there is systematic or institutional racism in this country?
Well, I think there is everywhere. I think probably less here than most places, or less here than many places.
Okay, but is it here in a way that it has an impact on people's lives?
I think it is, and it's unfortunate, but I think it is.
Sounds to me like the president clearly heard the question when Bob Woodward put it out there. Certainly didn't sound to me like he didn't understand or hear the question. All right, let's move on now.
Well, then I disagree with the president.
So Bob Woodward asked Donald Trump if he feels a sense of white privilege. Have a listen to this response.
And do you have any sense that privilege has isolated and put you in a cave to a certain extent, as it put me and I think lots of white privileged people in a cave, and that we have to work our way out of it to understand the anger and the pain particularly black people feel in this country? Do you
No, you really drank the Kool-Aid, didn't you? Listen to you. Wow. No, I don't feel that at all.
So there you go. And there's going to be more audio that's going to be released. By the way, this is 15 hours of audio, which is incredible.
It's really hard to listen to this guy ask questions, by the way.
So now you're going to go after Bob Woodward, who is one of the most...
that's fine. He can be accomplished. He can have a fantastic... I'm saying it's hard to listen to ask questions.
Why?
He sounds like a robot. He actually sounds like a robot to me, but that's fine.
So Bob Woodward is not a broadcaster. He's a journalist.
No, I know he is.
So it's not his duty to sound wonderful when he's asking questions.
And it's my opinion that he's hard to listen to. That's
okay,
all I'm
well,
saying.
he doesn't do a radio show.
You're right.
He doesn't do a TV show. He writes. He's a writer, and he's one of the most famous writers in my generation.
Congrats to Bob Woodward for that.
And he has had a tremendous career. And by the way, I know there are some people on social media that have said Bob Woodward is biased.
I'm just saying, if I had to listen to 15 hours of Bob Woodward
you don't like the way he
Donald
sounds.
Trump
I understand.
questions.
I understand. I'm sure if he was somebody that sounded pro-Trump, then I'm sure you wouldn't have a problem with that. But all I'm simply saying is this. He's a very accomplished guy. He's been around for a long time. For those of you on social media, and I know some of you are out there, that have said Bob Woodward is biased, you're dopes. And the reason why you're dopes is because he's wrote hit pieces. Some people call it a hit piece. I think it's good journalism, whether it's Barack Obama or Bill Clinton or Richard Nixon. So Donald Trump was apparently starstruck, by the way. I just want to be clear on that. In people that were around Donald Trump, he wanted to do this interview with Woodward because of how much he admired Bob Woodward for the work that he's done over the years. I think that's very telling.